Hi there, in this video we're going to talk about angle pair relationships. So why angle pair relationships? We need to know the different kinds of vocabulary and the relationships that angles have in order to solve for different angle measures. So there's a lot of vocabulary that goes along with angle pair relationships before we can actually do some work. So our vocab. First vocab word is called complementary angles. Complementary angles add up to 90 degrees. And which is also called a right angle. And you know this because they're going to have a little right angle symbol in the corner to show you that it adds up to 90 degrees, or they're complementary. Now, complementary angles can either be adjacent here, which means they have a side in common or they share a ray, or non-adjacent. See how there's like a gap here? They're two separate ones. So they can be adjacent or non-adjacent, add up to 90 degrees, which is also called a right angle. Supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees or a straight line. We know that they can be adjacent, next to each other, have a side in common, or non-adjacent, non-touching, but add up to 180 degrees. Slightly different is what's called a linear pair. Linear pair are angles that are adjacent that make a straight line. So it's like supplementary, the only difference is supplementary can also be non-adjacent. Bottom line is linear pair and supplementary add to 180 degrees. And last one are called, vertical angles. And they're opposite each other in an X. So if you have an intersection, these angles 2 and 4 and these angles 1 and 3 are vertical angles. And we know that all vertical angles are congruent, and this symbol equals with a squiggly, which is technically called a tilde. And equals with a tilde means congruent, and congruent means equal. So they're the same measure always. All right, so let's do a couple examples. So solve for the variable here. Now sometimes we notice for this problem number 1 that it adds up to a straight line, so it has to add up to 180 degrees. When you have that, you can also know that this is called the supplement. So they might also say find the supplement. Looks like this. Okay, and we know it adds up to 180 degrees. So I can write an equation, 150 plus x equals 180 degrees. You want to get into the habit of writing an equation because when they get more complicated, it's not stuff that you can just do easy peasy in your head. So I'm going to put a line down the middle to get x on a side by itself. I'm going to subtract 150 from both sides. And I get x is equal to 30. And we're going to write this as 30 degrees. Okay, problem number 2. Solve for y. So when you notice that these are complementary angles, which means they add up to 180 degrees, they might also say find the complement, which means find the other angle that adds up to 90 degrees if they give you one of the angles. So again, I'm going to practice writing an equation even when they're easy, so when they get harder, I understand the process. So I have my two angles added up together equal 90 degrees. I set them equal to 90 because they're complementary, and complementary means add up to 90. So to get y on a side by itself, I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides. And it's okay if you need to use a calculator because you are not a walking calculator in your head. So this is equal to 65, and in this case it's 65 degrees. Okay, last one. Now this one's a little bit harder. I notice, not the last one, just kidding. I noticed that these make a straight line, so this is what's called a linear pair for problem number 3, and we know that a linear pair makes a straight line which adds up to 180 degrees. So I'm going to write out my equation. 8x plus 26 plus 3x equals 180 degrees. Now, this is not one that you could just do easy peasy in your head, so this is why we want to practice writing out our equations when they're easy so that we understand what to do. First thing I need to do here is I need to combine my like terms. So here I have some like terms. So 8x plus 3x makes 11x. Oops, that's a funny looking 11. Now I have to get x on a side by itself. I have to move the 11 and I have to move the 26. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 26 from both sides. So I get 11x is equal to 154. Now, to get x on a side by itself, I need to divide both sides by 11. And I get x is equal to 14. Now, in some problems, they might say, find a particular angle. So that means you would have to take this 14 and plug it in. So if I said, find this angle that I just colored in yellow, you would have to take this 14 and plug it in and say, okay, well 3 times 14 is equal to 42. That means this angle is 42 degrees. Now I didn't ask you that in this question, but there will be some problems that ask you to do that. So you have to be careful what the question is asking you so that you give the proper information, because the final answer might not just be solve for the variable. Okay, this one is the last one, I promise this time. So this one looks a little bit confusing to me because there are 2 variables here. I have x's, y's, and y's. So how do I know what kind of angle relationship I'm going to use? You want to make sure that you're looking for variables that are the same. So here are my x's here, and here are my y's here. I happen to notice that my y's make a straight line here, and my x's make a straight line here. So I'm actually going to have 2 different equations. So my y's, 2y plus 3y plus 30, add up to 180 degrees. And then I also have one for my x's. 4x minus 100 plus x plus 5 equals 180 degrees. I have to solve for both. All right, so I'm going to put a line down the middle. I'm going to do the y's first. First thing I want to do is combine together my like terms. Here I have y's and y's. 2 y's and 3 y's total make 5 y's. I need to move my 30 and my 5. To do that, I have to subtract 30 from both sides because this is a positive 30. This goes away. I get 5y is equal to 150. And I need to get y on a side by itself. In order to do that, I have to divide both sides by 5. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. So I get y is equal to 30. There's my value for y. Now, let's solve for x. Okay, first thing I have to do is combine together my like terms. Here I have, oops, that's hard to see. Here I have x's and here I have x's. And here I have constants, and here I have constants. So I'm going to combine together my x's and combine together my constants. So 4x and 1x makes 5x's total. Now here, careful, this is a negative 100 plus 5 gives me negative 95. All right, now I need to move the negative 95 and the 5. So first thing I'm going to do is, because this is a negative 95, I'm going to add 95 to both sides. So 180 plus 95 is equal to 275. So this goes away. And I need to get x on the side by itself. To do that, this says 5 times x. To undo times, to undo multiplication, I have to divide by 5 and divide by 5. 275 divided by 5 is equal to 55. So there you have it. If you have any questions about angle relationship or the different types of angle relationships, please let me know. Good luck.